Hot take: has player empowerment ruined the NBA? Back in 2010, Chris Paul played for the New Orleans Hornets, which is now named the Pelicans. He played for this newly formed organization for 6 years before ultimately becoming frustrated like most of their stars do with the lack of talent he was surrounded with. From the moment Chris Paul stepped into the league, his mindset was focused on winning a championship and being the best point guard in the NBA. But with the Hornets, he saw that would be a difficult task to accomplish. During the 2010 offseason, CP3 was ready to leave this team behind by any means possible. And keep in mind, the New Orleans Hornets were still owned by the league at the time, so any personnel decisions were completely up to David Stern. During his time with the Hornets, CP3 was a first-round exit 2 of the 3 times they actually made the playoffs, with his co-star at the time being David West. David West was the second best player on the team, so you can't be mad at CP3 for wanting out. CP3 went on to voice his frustrations about the team with the GM at the time, Dell Demps, and he told him, "If you aren't committed to making this team better and able to compete with some of the elite teams in the league, then I want to be traded." David Stern went on to ignore his trade request, considering CP3 was still under contract for 2 more years. Now, this is where things get interesting. With his trade request going public and the media reporting on what situation would be best for Chris Paul, the pressure to make a move began to intensify for Stern, so he finally got a deal done. Or so we thought. So a 3-team deal was done, sending CP3 to the Lakers, Pau Gasol to the Rockets, and the Hornets would get Lamar Odom, Luis Scola, Kevin Martin, and Goran Dragic, as well as the Rockets' first-round pick. Now, what the Hornets got back in return is pretty solid, and the basketball world was going crazy as we would get to see the young superstar point guard and Chris Paul team up with the Black Mamba. This duo's potential was limitless. This would not only give Kobe Bryant for the first time in his career an above-average point guard that can play make at an elite level, make his teammates better, and CP3 is also a competitor. Chris Paul is one of the few players that can match the intensity that Kobe Bryant plays with on the court, and Chris Paul can also go get himself a bucket as well. Do y'all really think Chris Paul would have let Allen Iverson step over him like that? Hell no. At the end of the day, there were no losers in this deal, but for some reason, this scenario never happened. Now, keep in mind, during this time period, LeBron, D-Wade, and Chris Bosh, they all teamed up in South Beach. Carmelo Anthony was trying to force his way out of Denver to get to NYC, and Dwight Howard requested a trade from the Orlando Magic. Picture yourself in David Stern's shoes, the NBA commissioner, and now you have to give up your superstar point guard who is still in his prime, all because he prefers to be in a bigger market with a better opportunity to win now. I know you're probably thinking, NBA, why would David Stern veto this trade? He got a lot of good players in return and a first-round pick. NBA, what caused him to veto this trade? What's going on? Alright, check this out. When the owners of other small market teams got word of the CP3 trade, they immediately told David Stern that these superstars are forcing their way out of their contracts to bigger markets, is making the league top heavy, and that these small market teams are suffering the most by it, leading to the evisceration of any hope fans had to see Kobe Bryant and Chris Paul on the same team. Now, what many don't realize is that the NBA commissioner reports to the owners, not the other way around. He has to abide by their concerns. In fact, these owners became so enraged with these players deciding their own future, it resulted in the shortened 2011-2012 lockout season. The owners were trying to figure out a way they could entice their young stars to stay with the team that they were drafted by instead of leaving for these top tier teams. And yes, I'm gonna say it, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and Chris Paul, the Banana Boat squad, caused the 2011 lockout season. Now, this is where the conversation started that resulted in nowadays where your team can offer your star a lot more money than any other team in free agency. Unfortunately, this was not a foolproof plan. About a decade later, and NBA teams are still coming across players who are either frustrated from not being in a winning situation, or perhaps they feel betrayed that the organization turned on them and they now want out. Regardless, it's becoming more common, and this new wave of players requesting trades and sitting out games is giving team owners hell to deal with. because that now puts you in a tough situation. You now have a limited window of opportunity to get that player to a new team while also having to get equal or more value for that player. But maybe news got out that that star requested a trade. Now that puts a significant dent in that player's trade value. Ben Simmons is the topic of every NBA sports talk network discussing his future because he refuses to be a 76er. Damian Lillard's situation headlined most talk shows before rumors died down. James Harden gained about 50 pounds to try and convince the Rockets to trade him. And I'll expect the star next year to become vocal with his frustrations with his team, Zion Williamson. And don't be surprised if there's a lockout season incoming because these owners are becoming fed up with the lack of control they have over their team. But with that being said, guys, let me know what you think. And if you believe player movement is good or bad for the league, comment down below. Make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all next video.